So in Jeremiah, Jeremiah skips a bit of time. Notice that he's writing in the first person, and he says, after Jeconiah, son of Jehoiakim, was taken captive by Nebuchadnezzar, and he took with him the craftsmen and the metal workers and so forth. God showed me a vision. Well, you're going to wonder, first of all, keep in mind, Nebuchadnezzar is the king of Babylon. The Babylonians are also called Chaldeans. Babylon is also called Chaldea, Chaldea. So there are more than one word that's used for the same place. The same thing happens in Lord of the Rings, where Tolkien uses different names and different words for the same places. It can be confusing. So let's try to figure out what's happening. Jeremiah has skipped to a point where Judah has now been invaded. And in fact, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, has taken the king of Judah, one of the descendants of David, into exile along with the officials of Judah, the craftsmen, and the metal workers. In other words, the experts, particularly the experts who would make weapons of war. And he's brought them into Babylon, and he's left behind a group of people who are going to be poor and who are not going to have the ability to gather a force and rebel, because all of the metal workers and the craftsmen will be missing. And then there's the vision of the two figs, a good set of figs and a bad set of figs. And God interprets the vision. Like the bad figs that are so bad they cannot be eaten, so will I treat Zedekiah, the king of Judah, his officials, the remnant of Jerusalem who remain in this land, and those who dwell in the land of Egypt, and so forth. Well, who's that? Well, Zedekiah is the king's uncle. So Jeconiah is the king of Israel and one of the descendants of David. He's the king of Judah, the southern kingdom, and he's in Jerusalem. When Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians, also known as the Chaldeans, invade, they take him and all of his retinue and the officials, the administrators, and the craftsmen and the swordsmiths and so forth away in exile into Babylon, leaving behind Jeconiah's uncle, who functions as a token king. He's a king that the Babylonians have said, you run Jerusalem and Judah for us. In a sense, then, he's a kind of traitor king, the uncle of Jeconiah. The Herods who ruled in Jesus' time were set there by the Romans. They too were not of the lineage of David. They were not directly the kings who should have been ruling, and they were in league with their oppressors. Something similar happens in Vichy, France during World War II. After the Nazis invade, they set up their own puppet government to run France, composed of Frenchmen who do this. And so that's who Zedekiah is, the uncle of the true king of Jerusalem and Judah. And that seems to be why God is so angry at him and the remnant who have been left behind, who are in effect selling out and doing whatever it takes to please their captors, Nebuchadnezzar's forces, the Babylonians. Now, so I gave you a lot of background there, but here's what I want you to do when it comes to the book of Revelations. First of all, I want to point out this thing to you. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna to eat. And I will give him a white stone, and on the stone a new name written, which no one knows except him who receives it. Now let's focus on this before I tell you what I want you to do in general here with the book of Revelation. And that is, if you take this only literally, all it's going to be is confusing. So that if the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of Christ, is giving these messages to the various churches in Asia Minor, and he says, to him who overcomes, I will give some hidden manna to eat. What does that mean? Is he literally going to give them some manna, which was used to feed the Israelites as they passed through the wilderness? Is he literally going to give them some hidden manna to eat? Is he literally going to give the person who overcomes a white stone with a new name written on it that's secret between Jesus and the one who receives it? It's got to mean something in addition to that. Maybe literally this is true. I wouldn't discount that this might literally happen, but what would it represent? That's my question to you, and that's your assignment today. In addition to that, you're going to be on your own, except when it comes to the symbolical interpretations of this stuff. Now, here's the best way to do this. In other words, I don't want all kinds of questions from you guys about how, well, what's the church at Thyatira? Well, who is this Jezebel that they're talking about? Who is this? I don't get it. Who's this Jezebel, Mr. O'Brien? Here's what you do. You go to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops and you pull up whatever chapter we're reading that day. Google Revelation 2, New American Bible, USCCB, United States Council of Catholic Bishops, or anything like that, and you'll get this. And what you'll get here is a series of footnotes. First of all, they've got starred footnotes, same as they do in the printed text. I think they also have numbered footnotes. But at any rate, if you scroll down to the footnotes here in Revelation 2, you see some interesting things. They actually have some pretty good footnotes in the New American Bible. And these are the footnotes that the Catholic bishops have overseen. So you're not going to be getting footnotes that have a Protestant bias. And they point out each of the 7 letters, and we read 4 of the 7 letters today in Revelations 2. These are the letters that the Holy Spirit is telling St. John to write to the churches. Each of these 7 letters follows the same pattern. Address to the church in Smyrna or Thyatira or fill in the blank. Description of the exalted Christ. Blame and or praise for the church addressed. Threat and or admonition, and a final exhortation and promise to all Christians. Each letter takes that same form. That helps you understand it. And then, if you want to know, for example, well, what's Ephesus? Well, it tells you. Well, when it says those who call themselves imposters, well, what does that mean? Well, here's a little footnote to tell you. Who are the Nicolaitans? Here's a footnote to tell you. So, I want to be here to help you try to understand the symbolic import and meaning of this bizarre imagery throughout the book of Revelations. But we're going to be bogged down if you keep submitting as your question, who are the Nicolaitans? Because really the best answer is Google it. Now, you can't Google what is meant by hidden manna or the stone with a secret name. You can, and you'll get various interpretations. You can look on Bible Hub and you can get some various interpretations of those passages, and by all means do that. But the symbolic meaning is less cut and dried. You can read a footnote about where Ephesus was, where Smyrna was, and so forth and so on, but you're not easily going to be able to see a footnote that really tells you what something like the white stone or the hidden manna means. So I'm asking you, what do you think the hidden manna and the white stone means? Doesn't mean you're going to get it right. It doesn't mean I'm going to agree with you, but pray about it and think about it. If God is telling all the Christians, because that's what that first footnote says, the end of each letter to each of these 7 churches in Revelations ends with general advice, strange advice, symbolic advice to all Christians. To him who overcomes, to you who finish the battle and who defeat the forces of darkness in your life, Jesus will give you hidden manna, the stone with a new name on it that only you and he will know. What could that possibly mean? Even if literally that's what he's going to give you, it also has meaning in addition to its literal significance. So my question is about that. That's your assignment today. But I will try to fill you in on some of the historical stuff in Jeremiah. But remember to do that. And if you use the New American Bible, either the printed form or the online, you're going to get some really good footnotes. But use Bible Hub as well. The Bible Hub footnotes and the Bible Hub commentary are from Protestant points of view, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. With the USCCB and the New American Bible, you definitely know that you're getting footnotes that are sanctioned by the United States Council of Catholic Bishops, so you're going to get a more officially Catholic interpretation. Okay, I'm in Ottawa, Kansas, and hopefully Santa Fe, New Mexico tomorrow, where I'm driving. So hopefully I'll make it. More later.